Hey guys, welcome to the Paint with Lovejoy website. This is the place for first time and beginners to get comfortable with the painting process. If you have never painted, I am definitely the teacher for you. I will give you permission to play, to create with your hands, and I do consider this adult kindergarten, where you get to make memories with yourself or with loved ones. And you will notice that creative time is something that you will reference for the rest of your life. I do encourage you to send me photos of your paintings. And when you're done with my YouTube videos, please check out my Paint Your Pet course for even more in-depth and kind of my signature class. It's a lot of fun. Before we get started, I want to say thank you for being you. And I also want to give you permission to play today. I'm going to encourage that you take a lot of progress photos, and I do recommend that you turn off your distractions. Put your phone on mute. Please know that mistakes will happen. We call them happy accidents. And I'm going to encourage you to breathe throughout the painting process. Here are your recommended supplies and the colors for this particular video. This video also has a traceable, a line drawing at the beginning, and you can either purchase the traceable and transfer, or you can pause the video and draw it freehand, whichever you feel comfortable doing. Again, progress photos are important, and I'm going to encourage that you pause and play the video as much as you need and rewatch anything that you want. Now let's go ahead and get started painting. All right, guys, so take your first progress photo. We're going to move into the background, and I'm using a medium or even a large flat brush. And you do have full permission to change the color. So I'm going to be using yellow with a little bit of green and a touch of white. And you'll see here where I just kind of mix them in the center. You can change the shade to whatever shade of green you like. I do recommend that as you paint, apply your paint a little bit thicker. That's going to give you nice coverage in your background and for the texture of the canvas. And then also by painting a little bit thicker, it's going to make it a little easier for some of your. And like I said earlier, please feel free to play with color variations. Just use this video as a bit of a guideline and have fun. Now, I do recommend don't mix a huge blob of or a huge amount of color for your background. I want you to, for today's painting, to maybe mix it 2 or 3 times. And if there's some variation in there, that's okay. With that being said, please feel free to paint a little messy. You have so many areas in your life that you have to be perfect and kind of on top of it. So let this be a place where you get to be a little more expressive and messy. Now, that last prompt that just showed up there, if you are holding your breath right now, take a big inhale, relax. This is just painting. It's not the end of the world. And you're here just to have fun. All right, so you can see I even have some variety of shades in there already, even though I mixed my color each time. Now I'm grabbing that direct green, kind of placing it around some of the other colors, and then we'll use light pressure with our brush and kind of play with it. Play with the blending as the 2 colors meet. So it is okay if you overlap some of your shades of colors here. I do want you to play with the pressure of your brush. I want you to play with mark making. Maybe you make dash marks. Maybe you kind of go back and forth and make an X mark. Play with it, because the more that you can play, the more you're going to find what you like to do and what's comfortable for you. But if you don't try new things, you're not going to be able to find that out for yourself. So here again, just went to another spot with that darker green or the direct green, overlapping some of the other colors, and again, just play with it. Now, in some of my videos, I do recommend, and I actually do a second layer on some of my backgrounds and even some of the subject matter. So depending on what type of paint you may be using, you may need to do a second layer. And if I don't do it in the video, please feel free to just rewind that section of the video, rewatch it, and apply a second layer to your painting. All right, and again, go at your own pace. This is not a race. If you need to break up the painting into 3 or 4 sessions, maybe you do the background in one session and the next day you do another, totally okay. And in fact, that actually gets you painting hopefully a couple times a week if you do it a couple days in a row. That is a very healthy outlet to have. All right, and I apologize on this one. I think I have an uneven piece of cardboard under here, so I apologize about the shaking. I actually don't think I realized that when I was painting this, but now that I'm watching the water cup shake, I'm noticing it now. So we're all human. We all have new things that we're going to learn and do. So I'm not immune from that. And you will see many, many mistakes in my videos and even in my voiceover. So, again, just human. Embrace where you're at. I'm embracing where I'm at. I'm very grateful that I get to hang out and share this with you guys and hopefully inspire you to just bring creativity into your life. So, back to the painting. Still filling in the space. We're going to fill in that last little area over there. Play with your background. If you need to do that second layer, you can do a second layer. But have fun. And even at this point, now that we have things filled in, if you want to go back to the yellows, back to the greens, even doing that second layer is just going to be a lot of fun. If you have anything that has stressed you out or frustrated you this week or today, throw this into your painting. Throw those emotions in there. Um, and you usually feel better. All right, so here's the part, the wet on wet blending, slapping that white on there. And then again, just kind of with those brush strokes going back and forth. And this is a good place to play with the blending, play with the color transitions, play with the different shades. And again, play, just have fun. I'm gonna do the same thing with the yellow and I'll do the same thing with the green. So again, get your background to where you like it. And if you need to, as you're doing this, feel free to rotate the canvas if it makes it easier. Um, adjust what you need if you're on an easel and you prefer painting flat or vice versa. Again, creativity is a wide open avenue to help balance out your life. Like I said earlier, you've got enough stresses, enough places in your other areas that you do have to be perfect and pretty much on top of it. And in creativity, you don't have to. So let this be your place that you unwind. Paint messy, paint sloppy, forget about the rest of the world for a little bit. Hang out with me if you're doing one of my videos. And again, just have fun. All right, taking shape nicely as you're playing with your brush. Play with the pressure of your brush. Light pressure creates a bit of a smoother finish. More pressure creates a bit more of the painterly brush strokes that you'll see. And then kind of play with the pressure in between. If you do happen to be on a stretched canvas, when you get to the edge of your canvas, kind of carry these colors around the side. I am on a canvas panel, so I do not need to do that, but you might be on something different at home. So I wasn't satisfied with some of the darker shadows here, so I grabbed that direct green, doing the same thing. My background is still wet, playing with it. And because I am using student grade paint, it's a bit more on the transparent side. So even with the light pressure, my brush strokes are still showing up. And now I'm actually playing with the direction of the brush stroke um, to just kind of indicate some movement in the background. So feel free to kind of play with that on yours. Again, does not have to be perfect. And then I will recommend when we're done with the background, we're going to let it dry before we do the flower, but I do want you to look at your painting from across the room. Get out of your chair, take a break, look at your painting from a distance. Do take your progress photo. And again, notice what it looks like different from up close to 10 feet away. So do let your background dry. I'm going to talk about my favorite class that I teach, Paint Your Pet. Hopefully inspire you to come check it out. But we'll pick up the painting after this little ad. So this is my Paint Your Pet course. I will not make you paint this fast. This is a time-lapse video, but I do teach a realistic and a pop art style. Perfect for first-time and beginner painters. And I teach this class in person and online. These are my favorite photos to receive. Look at those happy pets and look at what an awesome job my students did creating a likeness of their pet. So again, if you've never painted, it's awesome to learn to paint when you paint something that you love. And again, if you've never painted, I am a great teacher to walk you through the steps very simply and very logically. I have in-person classes. Those are awesome. And then definitely check out the online classes. Both classes will offer easy, logical steps for you to follow. Now, you can paint your favorite pet or your favorite animal, no humans, but keep it at animals. You will impress yourself and your pet. So, when you're ready, check out the Paint Your Pet course and jump into the next level of painting for you. Now, let's jump back into your current painting for today. Again, look at it from a distance, look at that progress photo, pay attention to how you feel right. Hopefully, you're a little more relaxed and hopefully a little excited to get into um, painting the flower. So, with painting the flower today, this is a white daffodil, and we're going to work really, really subtly today. So, it may be a little awkward, and I do recommend that you will do this a couple of times. So, we're making a super, super light gray. I'm using a medium flat brush. Start with the white, add a tiny, tiny amount of black. We're going for really light gray. Because this is a white flower, we do have to create and paint in shades of gray to create a 3D illusion on a flat white canvas surface. So that is why we are laying this base of super light gray first. Then I'm going to grab the pointy brush and we're going to go a little bit darker. So taking a little bit more black and on the perimeter of your light gray, mix a little bit. And you want to go about 2 shades darker. And again, we're going to place this in a few little specific areas. So I want you to pause the video as much as you need to, observe the shape that I make these, and mimic that to the best of your ability. And we're going to recreate this formula on each petal. So we've got 6 times that we're going to do this. Now again, because we're working with such subtle shades, if your first couple shades of gray are really, really gray, kind of a medium gray, that's okay. Embrace that for where you're at for today's painting. So we're also going to add a highlight. I'm now using the pointy brush white paint, and I'm being very generous with the amount of white paint on there, because again, this is subtle shades and transition. So again, pause the video. If you need to, take a screenshot and then zoom in closer to that petal so you can see the place and the shadement where I placed those shades. All right, I'm going to try that again and hopefully not stumble over my words. So we're going to recreate this on the other petal. So going back to that original super, super light gray, we're going to fill in the entire shape of the next petal. Then we'll move to the pointy brush, make a little bit darker gray. And again, just a few shades darker than what you were just using. Put some shadows in there, and then we'll put a white highlight. This is definitely something that is more obvious from across the room. And then when you also take your progress photo, look at your painting on your phone. And when you do that, it's the same thing as looking at your painting from 20 feet away without getting out of your chair. And as we do a lot of these subtle shades, looking at it from across the room or looking at it on your phone is going to make some of these subtle shades a little more obvious. And usually you tend to like it a little bit more. So here we are back to that pointy brush, going a few shades darker to place on top of the super, super light gray. And you do want to keep light pressure with your brush. And sometimes you'll notice that I actually wipe off the excess paint before I go back to blending. So give that a try. Again, you are strengthening your power of observation. And this is a skill that you can strengthen for the rest of your life. The more that you paint, the more observant you get. And the more observant that you are, the more things you observe in other areas of your life. All right, here grabbing that white, very heavy handed with the white, very generous. And again, I apologize, it is very subtle and it is hard to see. So as you do this, you are training your eye, even just by watching the video. Take another progress photo. And we're going to recreate that process on the next petal. And even just for a bit of observation, look at the 2 petals we've already done and the comparison to the petals we have not done. Just that little bit of shading starts to give it some depth. And this is where the progress photos do come important, because I do want you to go back and look at these after you're done with today's painting. And again, if you have to mix your shades of light gray and a little bit darker, don't stress about it being exact. There is all kinds of variety and randomness that happens naturally in nature. Nature is absolutely not perfect. It is perfectly balanced, but it is not perfectly visual on a visual manner. And again, being an artist, you are a magician today by creating the illusion of this flower on a flat 2D surface. So we've got the base light gray up there. We're going back to make a little bit darker with the pointy brush and applying the shadow. I apologize again for the autofocus on this video. I forgot to lock that when I filmed this series, and it's actually on all my videos. So again, I apologize. I am still human, and I make mistakes. But it was not enough to warrant for me to refilm all of these and repaint them. And drop the brush. Things happen. We're all human. Give yourself permission to be sloppy. Give yourself permission to make mistakes like a human. So moving into that white, again, getting the highlights, very, very subtle, shows up more when you're doing this in person, and then definitely look at your progress photos to see how these shades are showing up. You can recreate this if you wanted to do a yellow daffodil or a different color. You could just switch out the black for the other color of your choice and still do the same thing that we're doing here. So moving into the next petal, same thing, moving into the super light white, still using the medium flat brush for that. And then we'll do our highlight and our shadow with the pointy brush next. Already this is taking shape nicely. If you're finding that your brush is shaky, especially as you go in to do these tiny details, because we're on the shadow element right now, exhale as you touch your brush to the canvas. And as I'm applying the shadow in there, that first super light gray is still wet, so I am blending that color into it. If you overblend or it gets too muddy, you can always take a paper towel and wipe off any excess paint and reapply the appropriate color. Again, I was just using the white for some highlights, and take your progress photo before you do your last two. Now, if you are starting to understand my formula for this with laying the base color and then putting in the darker, lighter, feel free to go ahead and do the next two petals at the same time. That'll be your challenge for right now. If you don't want to do both at the same time, do them one at a time. Big deal. What you are learning here, this is called wet on wet blending. We're putting the base light gray on, that's our base color. Then we're introducing a slightly darker color into it. And because that first layer is wet and the new paint that we introduce is wet, that's why it gets to be called wet on wet blending. All right, doing great. Here it's a little bit easier to see as I apply the color. And then also, it's almost like I'm squishing it and smearing it into that base color. This is where the wet on wet blending comes into play. And this is something that gets easier with more and more practice. Here I am applying the white, again, very generous with the amount of white. And then we'll move into our last petal. So take that progress photo and recreate this process one more time. Now, again, with this being wet on wet process, this is a skill that I've used in a lot of my videos. And this is also a very foundational art skill. So you can go take classes with other teachers and they will talk about this style of blending. So being exposed to it now just gives you more foundation as you go again, even with another teacher. So now again, moving the pointy brush, my mid-tone or my shadow color, blending that in, and then we'll wipe off the brush, grab the direct white paint, and get those last couple of highlights on this petal. Now, like I said earlier, please go back and look at your photos and just look at how much this transforms as you do each petal. Already such a nice 3D effect compared to how blank and flat the white canvas was when we started. Now we're going to move into the center, so clean that brush really good. we're going to do a mixture of white and yellow, kind of going for a lemony yellow color. And we are going to keep building on the skills that you were just utilizing. So we're playing our base color, that lemony yellow, and I'm going to paint right the center details from that traceable. And by the time you're done with this base color, the only white canvas space that should be left is the stem of the daffodil. Excellent job. Do take a progress photo. I'm going to switch over to that pointy brush. I'm going to grab orange paint and just the direct orange. And we're going to place this kind of around the perimeter of the yellow center of the daffodil. You'll be able to see it a little bit better as soon as my hand. So all we're doing is laying that darker orange on the center. Then I'm going to wipe off the brush, wipe off that excess paint, and then I'm going to go to the edge and with light pressure, I'm pulling the brush towards the center. And again, adjusting the brush as I go around this circle so that when my brush strokes are radiating towards the center. Again, use light pressure. And if you need to, you can wipe off your brush again or even clean it. So that way you have a little bit more control and you're just using a damp brush for the blending and the pulling aspect. And the pulling aspect is where we start with that brush on the perimeter where the orange is, and then we pull it towards that center. And by pulling it towards the center, that orange is mixing a little bit with the yellow. There we go. A little bit easier to see the pull from that angle. And again, this does not have to be perfect, but it's just giving you an indication of some subtle color changes, and it's good practice. All right, now we're going to use black paint, pointy brush. There we go. We're going to place a few dots in the center. That light yellow is still wet. So place a few dots in the center, and then from there, you're going to radiate out little brush strokes. Again, it'll be easier to see as soon as my hand moves. But again, starting in the center and then radiating out. Light pressure. A little bit of black paint will go a long way. So if you end up putting too much black paint in there, take a paper towel, wipe it off, reapply your yellow-white mixture, and then do it again. All right, this is looking good. Very, very 3D aspect. I forgot to put the green on my plate, so that's actually what I just did. So we're going to do a little bit of green and black. And I am using that medium flat brush. It's going to be pretty dark, and I want it to kind of stand out from the background again. You could do more of a yellow-green if you wanted, and it would still stand out from the background. So kind of your call. But mine is the black and green, filling in that stem completely. And again, I'm using student grade paint, so it's a bit transparent, so I am applying that a little bit thicker. All right, great job. We've got a few more things that we're going to do, but already you should be very proud of yourself. And again, if you paint this again, you'll see so much more comfort in what you're doing. All right, so if you want, you can let this dry. I'm grabbing the pointy brush, direct yellow paint, and just placing little dots in the center. Completely spacing on what those are called right now, the stamen or the pistil, and I forgot which one these are. So please leave a comment if you know what I just placed on there. Take your progress photo, and this step is optional. If you do not want to do it, you do not have to. This is where I'm going to be outlining the petals with black paint and the pointy brush. And I only do this because I do generally teach first-time beginners. And sometimes as you're still learning your skills, when we do this outline, it kind of cleans up your image a little bit more and you're a little happier with it. So that's the only reason I do this. It's not necessary. So if you choose to do your outlines, we're using the pointy brush, black paint, and I want you to hold the brush perpendicular to the canvas. Use light pressure so that way you're using the last 2 millimeters of the brush. And again, holding it perpendicular and just like a pencil, you're going to redo all those lines. Remember to breathe. If you are shaky as you're doing this, exhale as you touch the brush to the canvas. And that's going to help steady you out. Also, Because I'm filming the video, I keep the painting in the same orientation, but feel free to rotate the canvas as you're finding which direction is easier for you to make these lines. Now, with light pressure, you usually get a skinnier line. With more pressure, your line becomes wider. And it doesn't matter if you have a wide or a skinny line. This is just something that your muscles are getting comfortable with, your brush control. And the more that you do this, the more comfortable you become with your tool. And the only way you can become comfortable with this is through practice. Again, that's why I recommend finding creative outlets on a monthly, if not weekly basis for yourself. And if you can do that for a pretty regular time, you will see your skills improve drastically. And with that being said, a lot of times when you do want to see how much your skills are improved, go back and repaint a painting that you found challenging in the beginning. Hopefully, after practice, you will not find that painting as challenging as you did the first time. And that is how you can go. I have grown. I am more comfortable. I have learned a lot with the painting process. So, never about being perfect or better than anybody else, but just comparing and getting more comfortable to your past efforts. All right, take your progress photo. I did not outline the center of the daffodil because I felt like we did that with the orange, but great job today. Thank you so much for painting. Please don't wait too long to do your next painting. Send me photos, tag me on social media, or send an email to me with your photos. And then definitely check out the Paint Pet course when you are done, ready for your next level. Until next time, cheers.